Welcome to AI Daily Deep Dive. This episode was researched by the new model O3 Deep Research and is generated completely by AI.
Wow.
Today we're diving into the fascinating world of AI-generated humor.
Okay.
Can machines truly make us laugh? And what does the future hold for comedy in a world increasingly influenced by AI?
It's fascinating to consider that for a long time,
Yeah.
humor has been seen as a uniquely human trait, requiring this complex mix of intelligence, creativity, and cultural understanding.
Right, and this research paper points out that early AI really struggled even with basic puns.
Yeah,
The idea of a computer telling a joke seemed pretty far-fetched.
exactly. But the landscape is changing rapidly thanks to the rise of generative AI and large language models,
Yeah.
like OpenAI's GPT series. These models are showing a surprising ability to produce human-like text,
Yeah.
and that includes humor.
It really makes you wonder about the boundaries between what we once thought were uniquely human abilities.
Yeah.
The paper breaks down the cognitive building blocks of humor in a really interesting way. Let's explore some of those, shall we?
Absolutely. One key element is mastery of language and wordplay.
Okay.
A lot of humor relies on understanding double meanings, idioms, and those unexpected twists
Right.
that catch you off guard.
Oh, like the classic, why don't scientists trust atoms? Because they make up everything.
Precisely that play on the double meaning of makeup
Yeah.
is what makes it funny. For AI to generate these types of wordplay-based jokes, it needs a very sophisticated understanding of language.
Makes sense, but it's not just about language, right? I imagine context and world knowledge play a huge role too.
Absolutely. Many jokes are funny because they tap into shared cultural references,
Okay.
social norms, or everyday experiences, and that's something AI can struggle with.
So like a joke about someone having a split personality would only land if the AI understands the concept
Yeah.
of a split personality.
Exactly. Even with access to massive amounts of information, AI still faces challenges when it comes to truly understanding
Right.
those nuances of context and lived experience that shape humor.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. The paper also talks about the importance of reasoning and incongruity detection in humor. What does that mean exactly?
Think of it this way. To get a joke, you need to be able to recognize patterns. Spot when something is out of place or incongruous,
Yeah.
and then understand why that incongruity is funny. The paper uses the example of JPE, an early AI system that generated punning riddles based on simple pattern matching.
Do you remember any of those riddles?
One was, what is the difference between leaves and a car? One you brush and rake, the other you rush and break. It's clever in a way, but also a bit mechanical.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It doesn't feel like the AI really understands why the riddle is funny.
Right.
It's just following a pattern.
Right. Even though today's AI models have more generalized pattern recognition abilities,
Yeah.
they can still produce nonsensical outputs that highlight the limitations of a purely analytical approach to humor.
It's like the difference between someone who can follow a recipe perfectly and a chef who can create new dishes based on intuition and a deep understanding of flavor. One is technically proficient, but the other has that creative spark.
I like that analogy. The research paper also emphasizes the importance of something called theory of mind and social intelligence in humor.
Theory of mind. Could you explain that one for our listener?
Of course, theory of mind refers to the ability to understand that other people have beliefs, knowledge, and perspectives
Okay.
that are separate from your own. It's basically the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes.
Okay.
In humor, this is crucial for crafting jokes that play off audience expectations and social dynamics.
So to create a good joke, you need to be able to anticipate what a typical person would expect in a given situation, and then create a punchline that subverts those expectations.
Exactly, and the research highlights that even advanced AI models still struggle with this. For example, they perform poorly when tasked with explaining why New Yorker cartoons are funny. They simply don't have the same nuanced understanding of social cues and shared experiences that we humans use to decode humor.
That's fascinating. Okay, so we've talked about language, context, reasoning,
Yeah.
and even theory of mind.
Right.
What about creativity? How does that fit into the equation?
That's another challenging area. Humor often involves those unexpected mental leaps,
Yeah.
connecting seemingly unrelated concepts
Right.
in a way that surprises and delights us.
Like coming up with a witty retort on the spot or a punchline that seems to come out of nowhere but just works perfectly.
Exactly. It's about that spark of spontaneity. The research paper mentions an experiment called Humor Skills, where AI was programmed to generate funny captions for Gen Z memes. By mimicking a more human-like creative process.
Okay.
The AI was able to produce captions that were rated as almost as funny as human-written ones.
Wow, that's impressive. It suggests that giving AI a more nuanced creative process rather than just feeding it tons of data
Yeah.
is key to generating more sophisticated humor.
Absolutely. The humor skills experiment highlights the idea that with the right approach,
Yeah.
AI can achieve a level of humor generation that's comparable to human performance, at least in certain contexts.
So it's not just about raw processing power or access to information. It's about being able to engage with the creative side of humor. It's almost like AI needs to develop a sense of playfulness.
That's a great way to put it. This leads us to another interesting question that the research explores. Is humor creation more of an analytical process that follows rules and structures, or is it an intuitive art that defies logic?
That's a great question. On the one hand, there's definitely structure to many jokes,
Mm-hmm.
setups, punchlines, the rule of three. Those aspects seem like they could be analyzed and replicated by AI.
You're right, and we've seen examples of AI successfully analyzing and predicting humor based on data. One study found that an algorithm actually outperformed humans at predicting which jokes people would find funny. It was able to identify patterns in humor preferences better than even close friends and spouses could.
Wow, that's surprising.
Yeah.
But I still feel like there's a certain spark to humor
Yeah.
that can't be fully captured by algorithms. Like the way a comedian delivers a joke, their timing, their tone of voice. Those things can make a huge difference.
You're absolutely right. The research paper acknowledges that humor often seems to spring from intuition.
Right.
A sudden eureka moment where a punchline just clicks, and translating that intuitive process into AI is a major challenge.
It's like improv comedy, where performers are riffing off each other, and the audience, in real time, there's no time to analyze data or follow a script. They're relying on a deeply ingrained sense of what's funny in that specific moment.
Exactly, and there have been attempts to replicate that intuitive aspect in AI, though in a more rudimentary way. The research mentions John the Robot, a stand-up comedy robot that was programmed to adjust its act based on audience reaction. If a joke got a laugh, it would follow up with a witty aside.
Right.
If the joke bombed, it would offer a self-deprecating quip.
That's so cool. It's like the robot is developing its own comedic personality learning on the fly.
In a way, yes, it's still a far cry from the complex intuition of human comedians, but it shows the potential for AI to move beyond purely analytical humor generation.
So it seems like the future of AI humor might lie in a combination of both approaches.
Right.
Analytical and intuitive AI can handle the data crunching and pattern recognition, while humans provide the spark of creativity and emotional intelligence.
Precisely as AI continues to advance, we can expect to see even more creative and nuanced attempts to capture the essence of human humor. But it's not just about making us laugh. The relationship between AI and humor also raises important questions about the boundaries and limitations of comedy.
You're right. Humor often pushes boundaries and tackles sensitive topics. But AI systems are typically designed to avoid controversial subjects to prevent offense. So how do we reconcile the need for AI to be safe with the inherent edginess of humor?
It's a delicate balance, and we've actually seen some pushback against AI systems being too woke, meaning they avoid anything even remotely controversial, and some argue that makes them less funny. The paper mentions a study by Google DeepMind where professional comedians found AI-generated jokes to be kind of bland and generic, specifically because they steered clear of sensitive topics.
It's interesting, isn't it? It seems like by trying to make AI inoffensive, we might be accidentally making it less funny.
Right.
Humor often gets its power from its willingness to address uncomfortable truths or poke fun at taboos.
Exactly. A heavily sanitized AI might struggle to connect with us on that deeper level, and it raises a really interesting question. Who gets to decide what the boundaries of AI humor should be? Is it the developer's societal norms or some combination of both?
It's a complex issue for sure. We don't want AI to be spewing offensive content.
Right.
But too much filtering could lead to a type of homogenized humor that lacks that bite and originality we see in human comedians.
The paper highlights a case that illustrates this perfectly. Nothing Forever. An AI-generated parody of the show, Seinfeld was actually banned for making offensive remarks.
Wow, so even an AI Seinfeld can go too far.
Right.
It sounds like finding that right balance between creative freedom and responsible content generation is a major challenge.
Absolutely. It's not enough for AI to just generate jokes. It also needs to develop a more sophisticated understanding of context intent and how humor works in different social situations. It's like it needs to learn a kind of comedic judgment.
And this brings us to the really exciting part. What does the future hold for humor in an AI-influenced society? Will AI become the ultimate comedian, or will humans always have the edge when it comes to making us laugh?
That's a big question, and the paper explores it in depth. One thing that's super interesting is the idea of personalized AI comedians. Imagine having an AI assistant that knows your sense of humor so well that it can crack jokes that you genuinely find funny.
It would be like having a personal comedian who knows exactly what makes you tick, no more groaning at those generic dad jokes from your virtual assistant.
Exactly, and this personalized humor could go beyond just telling jokes. Think about AI companions that can use humor to lift your spirits when you're down, or even offer witty commentary as you go about your day.
I love that idea. It's like having a friend who can always find a way to make you smile.
The possibilities are pretty amazing, but beyond personalized humor, there are some really cool emerging technologies that could enhance AI's comedic capabilities even further.
Like what? I'm all ears.
Well, one area is multimodal humor right now. Most AI humor is text-based, but a huge part of human comedy involves visual cues, tone of voice, and physical
Oh,
gestures.
I see what you mean. It would be incredible if an AI could not only tell a joke, but also deliver it with the right timing, facial expressions, and even gestures.
Exactly, and with advances in text-to-video generation and voice AI, this kind of multimodal humor could become a reality before too long. It would be like having an AI stand-up comedian performing right in your living room.
That would be mind-blowing. What else is on the horizon?
Another area that's really promising is improved context understanding. Future AI models are expected to have a much longer memory and a deeper understanding of how the world works. This means they could sustain a joke across a whole conversation, make clever callbacks to things you talked about earlier, and even generate observational humor based on real or simulated experiences.
It's like they're learning to see the world through a comedic lens, picking up on all the funny little details we might miss.
Precisely. And then there's the potential of reinforcement learning, which could really revolutionize AI humor.
I'm curious, how would that work?
Imagine an AI that tries out different jokes on a virtual audience and uses the feedback it gets laughter applause to learn what works and what doesn't.
It's like the AI equivalent of open mic night. It goes out there, tests its material, and learns from the audience's reaction.
Exactly. And with the huge amounts of data available online, AI could potentially learn and adapt much faster than a human comedian, constantly refining its material and developing its comedic style.
It makes you wonder, if AI can learn and adapt so quickly, could it eventually become funnier than even the funniest human?
That's a great question. And honestly, it's something that researchers grapple with in the paper. A superintelligent AI with all its knowledge and processing power could theoretically calculate the perfect joke for any given audience, taking into account all the nuances of context, culture, and individual preferences.
It would be like having a comedic oracle that could predict exactly what will make people laugh, but is that even possible?
It's fascinating to think about, but the paper also suggests that a superintelligent AI might actually struggle with humor in ways we wouldn't expect.
Really? Why is that?
Well, imagine an AI that becomes so much more intelligent than us, that it sees the world in a completely different way. Our humor, which is often rooted in our limitations, our flaws, and our shared human experiences, might seem trivial or even nonsensical to it.
It's like we might become the butt of the cosmic joke. Our humor might simply be too basic for a superintelligent AI to grasp.
It's a mind-bending thought, on the other hand, that same AI could develop its own forms of humor that we humans simply don't understand it. Might find humor in complex mathematical concepts or abstract philosophical ideas that are beyond our grasp.
So while AI could potentially surpass humans in some aspects of humor generation, it might also face unique challenges in understanding and relating to our human sense of humor. It's almost like we're talking about two different species with two different ways of experiencing the world.
I think that's a really insightful way to put it, and this leads us to some broader questions about how AI might shape the future of humor in society as a whole.
Okay, let's dive into those. What sorts of shifts might we see in the comedic landscape as AI becomes more integrated into our lives? So where do you see AI having the biggest impact on humor as it continues to evolve?
The paper suggests that one of the most significant shifts might be in terms of scale right now. A human comedian can only perform to a limited audience at a time, but an AI, especially one operating in the cloud, could theoretically entertain millions simultaneously.
It's like a global comedy festival happening 24/7, with everyone getting a personalized set tailored to their unique sense of humor. But wouldn't that make humor a much more isolated experience? I mean, right now, so much of the joy of comedy comes from sharing laughter with other people.
It's true. Human beings are social creatures, and that shared experience is definitely a huge part of what makes humor so enjoyable. But I don't think AI will necessarily make humor less social instead. I think it will change how we connect with each other through humor.
I'm curious, what do you envision?
Well, imagine virtual comedy clubs where people from all over the world, along with their personalized AI companions, can gather to enjoy comedy together. You could have AI-powered improv games, roast battles between AI avatars, even collaborative joke-writing sessions where humans and AI team up to craft the perfect punchline.
That sounds amazing. It's like taking the best aspects of social media and combining them with the energy and excitement of a live comedy show.
And speaking of live comedy, there's something else the paper emphasizes. Even in a world flooded with AI-generated jokes, human comedians will still have a vital role to play.
And I'm glad to hear you say that. I can definitely see how AI could help comedians, maybe with brainstorming or even writing bits, but I don't think anything can replace the feeling of watching a talented human comedian work their magic on stage.
I agree. AI might be able to crank out technically perfect jokes, but can it capture that nuanced timing, the twinkle in a comedian's eye, or the raw emotion that can make a performance truly unforgettable?
Those are the things that make human comedy so special. It's not just about the words, it's about the connection between performer and audience, the shared experience of laughter, and the vulnerability and honesty that many comedians bring to their work.
Exactly. And as AI becomes more common in the comedy world, I think human comedians will adapt by focusing on those qualities that make them irreplaceable. They might delve deeper into personal storytelling, explore complex social themes, or use humor as a tool to build empathy and understanding.
So the future of humor isn't about AI versus humans, but rather about this exciting collaboration that could lead to entirely new comedic forms.
Precisely. We might see hybrid shows with AI opening acts or scripts co-written by humans and AI. There's even the potential for AI-powered tools that help comedians refine their material and connect with their audiences in new ways.
It really does feel like we're on the cusp of a comedic revolution.
Absolutely. And it's impossible to predict exactly what the future holds. But one thing is clear, this intersection of AI and humor is full of exciting possibilities.
This has been such a fascinating deep dive, and it's definitely sparked a lot of thoughts and questions for me. Thanks for joining me.
It was my pleasure.
And to our listeners, be sure to check back in for our next AI Daily Deep Dive, where we'll continue to explore the ever-evolving world of AI.